Tyree was murdered. You've heard from other folks who've had interaction with the Scorpion unit. They are traumatizing people. They are assaulting them with no proof immediately. Gun to the head. Where's the weed at? Where's the gun at? No justice!
No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
Take it to the streets and fuck the police! No justice!
No peace!
Tyre Nichols! Tyre Nichols!
So we're currently following these protesters as they're blocking off this entire highway in Memphis. They've been out here since before the video dropped of the beating that led to Tyre Nichols' death. Tyre Nichols died after being brutally beaten by Memphis police in a traffic stop on January 7th. He was 29 years old. What was most shocking to you when you saw that footage?
In many people's minds, they think of the police as somebody who keeps them safe. But when you see somebody getting brutalized that way and you see more police running onto the scene, like what's always shocking is that they join in.
One of the protest leaders is Amber Sherman, who's been fighting for police reform for years. How did it feel when you saw that video?
I didn't watch that video. I don't have to watch somebody being beat to death to believe what happened to them. That man was murdered. You can clearly see it. And the picture of him and his parents' description of what happened to him, I don't believe in re-traumatizing ourselves as Black folks who are already experiencing trauma every day, being over-policed and criminalized.
The city of Memphis responded relatively quickly to Nichols' death. 5 officers were fired and charged with murder. Videos showed them punching, kicking, and pepper spraying him for 3 minutes. It took EMTs another 16 minutes to treat Nichols at the scene. And 3 days later, he died at a hospital. Memphis police initially called the traffic stop a, quote, confrontation, and said that after several verbal commands, detectives were able to get Nichols in custody. But his family shared a photo of him in the hospital, showing the world what the officers had done.
My son, he liked to skateboard. That was his passion. He's been skating since he was 6 years old.
And very good.
And very good. All my son was trying to do was get home.
Yeah.
That's all he tried to do, was come home. He was 2 minutes from the house when they stopped him. He was less than 80 yards away when they murdered him. Yes, I said murdered.
That's right.
Nobody's perfect, okay? Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
But he was damn near, okay?
It seemed like Memphis had taken steps to prevent something like this from happening. Police Chief Carolyn Davis, the first Black woman to lead the force, came in from outside the department after pushing for national police reforms in 2020. After Nichols' death, Davis tried to show she was taking it seriously.
Ensuring we communicate with honesty and transparency, and that there is absolute accountability for those responsible for Tyre's death.
But activists like Sherman aren't satisfied. What are your thoughts on how Chief Davis has handled the Tyre Nichols case so far?
I'm disappointed in her as a police chief in general and the entire police department. A lot of the police issues that we have been continual, like since I was born. Like they've just continued this whole time. There haven't been much reforms. Organizing is a long game, and to maintain strength in doing that, you have to be prepared for it to be a long game.
Do you think it's possible to get to that place where Tyre Nichols, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, where these things don't keep happening?
I think the only answer is abolition. So I don't think there's any other answer but abolish it all, defund it all, divest it all, and give it back to communities, because we keep ourselves safe.
Say his name! Say his name! Say his name!
So it's the day after the video was released. Protesters are back out here again. It's cold, it's rainy, it's windy, but they said it's important enough to continue to ask for accountability and justice in this case.
The demand still stands. We need the names released of every person involved in the gruesome murder of Tyre Nichols. We need everyone charged accordingly. We need an end to these different task force units that are essentially brutalizing and harassing and terrorizing our neighborhoods.
The officers charged with Nichols' murder were part of a specialized anti-crime unit created by Chief Davis called Scorpion. The 40-officer unit was supposed to combat homicides, robberies, and carjackings. During this protest, the city answered one demand and got rid of the Scorpion unit.
We saw some people celebrating that the Scorpion unit was disbanded. Did you celebrate?
No, I'm not going to celebrate because I know they're not going to do it. They're just going to rename it something else. I mean, I've been here time and time again. We've been doing this time and time again.
This sense of distrust isn't unreasonable. Over 8 years, the police department received more than 500 complaints for excessive and unnecessary use of force, and its officers shot and killed 16 people. Some of these victims didn't make national headlines and are still waiting for justice.
As I was, right here at the pumps, pumping gas, it was a police officer that had pulled up on that side right here. And as he was getting out the car, I heard him yelling, get on the ground, get on the ground. And at that time, I was just turning around looking like, who he talking to?
Police say Williams was pulled down to the ground with unnecessary use of force.
The officer keeps his suspect down by putting his foot on Williams' back and keeps it there.
People here say it's an example of the desperate need Memphis police need for body cameras.
In 2015, Cartrell Williams was attacked by officers who incorrectly identified him as a road rage suspect they were looking for. It took a year for the officers to be suspended, and it happened only after surveillance footage from the gas station was released.
So when you actually got a hold of the footage, what was it like watching it back and seeing what happened to you?
I started crying because I'm like, damn, man, I couldn't been here, say 16 more seconds, who knows what would have happened.
So talk me through how you were feeling when you saw what happened to Tyre Nichols.
I'm gonna be honest with you, I still didn't look at that tape. Because every time something like this happened, it brings back the memories. So I refuse to look at the tape. I don't want to see it.
Williams's case was one of the examples the community used to demand body cameras for MPD officers, which they started wearing in late 2016. Another change the department's made has been remaking the police force to resemble its majority Black city. And now 58% of the force is Black. And yet and still, Nichols died at the hands of Black officers.
I think this case makes it very clear for the entire world that it's not white officers versus Black individuals or white officers versus poor individuals. It's blue versus Black.
There's been so much conversation about how swiftly these officers were fired or how swiftly they were charged with murder even before any footage was released. Do you think that has anything to do with the fact that these officers were Black?
I don't necessarily know. What I will say, it has everything to do with our district attorney. Now, I want to hold his feet to the fire. He needs to bring charges with everyone who showed up on the scene. The duty of care is real. The duty to intervene is real.
City Councilman J.B. Smiley helped to pass reforms in 2020 that require officers to intervene when other cops are abusing someone, a policy the department said was violated in the traffic stop with Nichols.
You have to start by getting rid of all of the bad apples and those individuals who stand on the sideline while people are perpetrating criminal activity.
So are we talking about a few bad apples at this point, or is the whole tree rotten?
I think what we're talking about is a culture. In 2020, this body pushed for serious reform in the city of Memphis. Police Association, they pushed back. Our Memphis Police Department pushed back. Our administration pushed back.
What I hear you saying is, sometimes the city council's power is limited depending on resistance, right? But what you all can do and do is approve the budget.
Absolutely.
Right? What does it mean for a city like Memphis when almost half of the city's budget goes towards policing?
It means we're not adequately providing for every part that makes our city whole.
There's been these small wins. There was a push for body camera. You got a new police chief, more money for training. If all of that has happened that led up to Tyre Nichols' death, then is reform even possible at this point?
If we don't have a culture change, that does nothing, because the duty to intervene was in place. The duty to render aid was in place.
without a culture change, none of that means nothing.
In addition to the 5 officers charged and fired, 2 others have been suspended, along with 2 more from the sheriff's office. 3 EMTs have also been let go. And the investigation isn't over.
And we gotta make sure we pull up, right?
Yeah.
Y'all pulling up?
Come on, pull up.
Pull up?
Pull up.
Pull up?
Pull up.
We as a community, we keep ourselves safe, right?
Exactly.
We take care of ourselves, right?
Exactly. Right.
So we're gonna make sure that happens.
I'm Michael Learmonth, editor-in-chief of Vice News. Too often, traditional news outlets shy away from the real stories and experiences of those living through global conflicts. Not Vice News. Our reporters are on the ground, fearlessly covering the human stories that shape our world. You and millions of others can continue to read, watch, and listen to Vice News for free. But we hope you'll consider making a one-time or ongoing contribution of any size at vice.com/contribute. Every contribution, no matter how big or small, helps support the journalism Vice News brings to you every day. Thank you.